Hello and welcome to Off the Record with
Judah
Kirk
and Oliver.
Today we've got a bunch of fun topics. As usual, we have our Bible topic, our political topic, and our cultural topic. Today our Bible topic is going to be with Judah.
Yeah.
Then Oliver is going to be giving us our political topic, and I will be giving the culture topic. So stick around for those. And if you haven't checked it out yet, we have a second, much shorter podcast called Side Quest. That's going to be a lot easier to get into than these hour-and-a-half to 2-hour podcasts. But how you doing, Judah?
I'm doing all right. It's been a long week, but I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be recording, and we're gonna have some fun. We got some good things to discuss today. Oliver, how are you, man?
I feel like garbage. I think I got what Kirk's got, like a minor cold. But I'm here to talk about politics. I don't know. I'm no expert. But this is interesting. We're going to talk about DOGE and stuff, so we'll see how it goes.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. All right. So I believe that news is our next section. So, Oliver, you have our first headline for the day.
We got U.S.-Russia talks over the Ukraine war. It's like the first time they've ever talked over, I think since the start of the war.
Mm-hmm.
There was quite a few dialogues that occurred, I think, in Turkey during the first months, but things have been quiet on the communications front, and really we just see the U.S. funding a war and Russia continuing to pursue the invasion of another country. What do y'all think about that?
Are you pro-Russia? Because I think I might be.
I'm particularly not. I mean,
I'm anti both of them.
I feel like it's such a liberal or leftist thing to be pro-Ukraine, so I just decided to be the opposite.
hey, bro.
And I somehow like Putin. I don't know why.
I mean, I
think that's your contrarian part.
He's got an aura.
He has max aura. Dude has maxed out his aura. It is, it is ridiculous.
I feel like he's compensating for something in his pants, but
you're not wrong.
Well,
that doesn't mean he
doesn't
doesn't have max aura. It just means he doesn't have that in his pants.
I do have to agree though. He can walk the walk quite literally. If you haven't seen the Putin walk.
Putin walk is good. Yeah.
Putin walk is fantastic.
And he's been a agent of the what's their agency called? Not the Gestapo.
That's the Gestapo. Not the
It's
Gestapo.
It's their secret police.
Yeah, their secret police.
The KGB.
The KGB.
The
Yeah.
KGB during the closing years of the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
So. I'm guessing he took a lot of that aura from that time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
KGB.
certainly a lot of his experience and expertise came from that area. I think it's really good that we're starting to try to normalize relations again because, I mean, they're a massive country. In terms of landmass, they're the largest country in the world. We definitely don't want them falling into closer and closer relations with our enemies such as China and Iran. So if we can try to bring them kind of back into this global world order that we've kind of created, it would be better for the United States, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the stop of the war would be something would be excellent. Less loss of life, and free-flowing trade again, which is something Russia does have resources, and I'm not a globalist at all, but still, the countries that surround Russia, particularly, not like the U.S., but countries that surround Russia have been cut off from that because they've been supplying war. And, those countries kind of need that to survive and not become the USSR again. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. And we also don't want a complete collapse of the system that we have for, like, modern trade, because basically the entire world revolves around the US dollar right now.
Mm-hmm.
And BRICS nations, which very notably includes Russia and China,
yeah,
have been in talks to start their own rival currency to the US dollar. Whether that would be the rupee or what does China have?
The renminbi.
The renminbi.
RMB.
Whatever that is.
I've never heard of that.
Whatever currency they try to go with, that would kind of topple the United States' economic dominance. And we definitely don't want that because it's not in our best interests.
Yeah.
And the entire world economy is kind of propped up on it. And so there'd be actual mass starvation and horrible tragedies that wouldn't need to happen if our economic dominance is faltered in that kind of a way.
Mm. There's also a general concern that Russia will continue as a state to do what they've done historically in the past, which is occupy territories. They've done that in, I believe, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And
Our favorite country.
and I mean, I suppose Chechnya is part of Russia. It's just that they have conducted quite a few operations, special military operations during the years. So there is a concern for that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this, Oliver?
personally, I believe peace will bring less death. But there is a sense that, Russia is definitely not going to be our ally at the end of this. We're definitely going to have to keep ourselves on our toes when it comes to diplomacy with Russia, just because they're an actor that's very, very Byzantine in some cases. They can have they're very secretive in a lot of cases just because of the structure, how Russia is structured. It's Putin was being a KGB agent. He created a sort of government which that kind of decentralizes accountability. That allows independent agents to act out without directly tracing back Putin's orders back to him when things go down. So
yeah. So basically, we're happy with better economic relations, but we don't want to be best pals with them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
If we can, take over Russia and start the great empire of mankind, then
the 52nd state would be pretty awesome.
Yeah. If Russia become the entirety of Russia is just the 52nd state,
yeah.
It has as much resources as Texas.
The largest country by land area on Earth is just the 52nd state.
Just the 52nd state.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
But thank you for that, Oliver. That was a good first headline to kick off the day. So I got a second headline for us today. So the estate of Joe Shuster, co-creator of Superman, is suing Warner Brothers Discovery and DC Comics over the rights to Superman, citing international copyright laws. So for those of you that don't know, international copyright laws in countries that basically aren't America works a little differently.
There are other countries?
There are other countries? That's insane. But there are other countries. And so what happens is after the death of whatever character or property's creator, 25 years after that, those kind of go into what we would consider the public domain. Mm-hmm. Or revert back to, if there's any living members of a family, the family that co-created that. So in this case, Jerry Siegel passed away in 1996 and Joe Shuster in 1992. So both estates of the Shuster and Siegel estate have the rights to international distribution of Superman, according to them. Historically, Siegel and Shuster got paid. You want to know how much money they got for the rights to Superman?
A lot, I'm sure.
$130.
Not that much, I'm sure.
Yeah, no. $130. So the family has been trying to since, I think, 2017-ish, around the release of the last Justice League movie. The Siegel family had the rights. They did this previously. This happened again with Black Adam. And the idea is they basically want money, to be paid money for the movie to be distributed internationally.
They think it's their IP.
They think it's their IP. Which, since there's two prior cases of this happening with Justice League and then Black Adam, which I don't understand why he's in the after credit scene of Black Adam. You probably have not seen that movie. No. Superman is not really in that movie. But because of this, they're trying to, take some attention and get some money out of it. Most likely, it will be ruled in favor of Warner Brothers Discovery, just based off of prior history. And the rights, the movie's not going to be really affected, though it could be affected in Canada and Australia, which that's a whole nother part of this.
So what court is this in?
It's going to be an American court. You want to know why?
Why?
Because the Siegel and Shuster families are based in America.
And then who isn't based in America?
No one. The Warner Brothers is based in America.
Okay, so everybody is.
Yeah,
based in
so
America.
this is why it's dumb, because
so they're just trying to get
citing
the
international law in American court.
But they're trying to get the international IP that they get paid out from international viewing.
So yeah, basically they want a percent of the ticket sales of the movie
from international
release.
Okay, yeah,
and
that's not gonna
hold
up in America. First of all, we really don't like international law.
No, we
here.
don't.
Like we
At all.
it's a whole thing, but we really don't like just saying okay, international law. But you mentioned that there was Justice League and Black Adam. Maybe we'll ignore Black Adam. Was there a case involved in Justice League? Did they sue over Justice League?
They did, yes.
And did they win or lose?
They lost.
Okay,
So
they're gonna lose.
But it was just the Schuster estate, because it had been 25 years since Joe Schuster's death.
Mhm.
So just the Schuster estate sued. I guess they think they might have more power because both creators' estates are
But
suing.
because there has been a prior ruling, basically the American court system works on a mix of things. One of them is laws. One of them is prior decisions, also known as, in legal terms, stare decisis.
Yes.
And with stare decisis, basically the court's going to say, we ruled on this already.
Yeah.
You lost. So bye.
Bye, yeah.
Leave.
Yeah, so, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? And I know I'm talking about Superman again. For you listeners, I never get tired of talking about Superman. If you do, I don't. You're just not a good person.
Wow,
so,
insulting our 5 viewers like that.
Yeah. So, Oliver, you have any thoughts on this? I mean, it's a legal case. It's not like a massive thing, but it's interesting news.
I feel like, I mean, has the estates for Schuster and etc. been like at odds with DC Comics for I don't know, since he got that $150 and DC walked away?
Well, so Siegel and Schuster, they made money off of the comics they worked on, right?
Yeah.
What they were paid for was the creation of Superman in 1938.
Yeah.
And at the time, they were paid $130, which I don't have a
1938?
inflation. Yeah.
That's...
I don't, it's decent compensation. They did not expect him to become... Like, they did not expect... At the time, it wasn't called DC Comics. It was National Comics. National Comics did not expect one singular character in one first starting comic to become, like, what Superman is today.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's reasonable for the time. But after that, the Siegel and Schuster estates have been recognized in films, which is a good thing because it's like recognition for those. But they have not been paid out, which I think both estates feel like they're owed money.
Mm-hmm.
So in conclusion, we got some like bitter estates of creators' family for Superman that are suing to try to get percentage of ticket sales in international countries. It's probably just going to be overruled and they're going to lose, but it's an interesting topic.
I'd be more sympathetic if it were like the individuals who actually did the work.
Yeah.
If it's just their family, it's like, okay.
Really?
I mean, even if it was the guy who did the work, he wouldn't have much standing to sue over this. But the family of the guy who did the work, sorry, get out of here.
Yeah. Well, Kirk, I believe that you have our last headline.
Yes. So, for anybody who cares about Great Britain anymore, I guess. I know we kind of got rid of all that like 248 years ago or something like that. But
9.
Yeah, actually, it's closer to 9. That's really awesome, actually.
I mean, 28 years later, it seems like it's going to be a banger.
Anyway, for those of us who actually care about our relatives across the pond, I guess, the BBC is probably going to be canceling Doctor Who. I actually grew up watching a lot of Doctor Who, like OG early 2000s Doctor Who.
Who's the first guy? The bald dude.
Christopher Eccleston.
Yes. And then it's
David Tennant,
Matt Smith, and then I don't care after that.
Capaldi,
the lady,
I don't remember.
And
her
then
name
the black
actually.
dude,
and then Judy Gatwa, who's currently the Doctor. Jodie Whittaker was the girl. The show was going really far downhill. There were rumors of cancellations and things like that for a while, but recently I'm assuming that it's partly to do with the cuts from USAID, where the BBC was getting like 8% of their entire budget was USAID.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
That is
and they were already struggling. Like, they were struggling to make ends meet. So, with poor ratings, with just totally, like, going woke and so going broke in a lot of their projects, but especially with Doctor Who, and then with a cutoff of that essentially foreign aid, they're not going to be able to keep that up. There are rumors, I think, that Shudigatwa is moving to Hollywood, and he's going to be trying to find work there. They're apparently Russell T Davies, who is the showrunner right now, is also moving on to some like gay love show of some kind. Not really
Gay
sure.
love show.
I mean, he's gay.
I mean, I know that.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Good for him.
Apparently, he's moving
I
on to
guess.
greener
False.
pastures.
Bad for him.
More rainbow pastures.
Spiritually
Yeah,
bad
certainly
for
rainbow.
him.
And
Rainbow
yes,
pastures.
bad for him.
spiritually, mentally, everything.
Physically?
Literally, it's bad. But
Physically, AIDS.
Stop.
basically everybody involved that's fairly high up is rumored to be going elsewhere. The Disney deal, because they are distributing on Disney in the United States and maybe other places, but they had a partnership deal with Disney and they got a lot of funding from that. They're probably going to release season 2, and then because they reset the seasons, they're going to release season 2, and Disney's probably going to axe that. So, I mean, it kind of sucks because it's such a long-running institution, and it used to be really good, and I have a lot of good memories of it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't want it to go, but at the same time, it's like, you made a ton of bad business decisions, you gotta face the consequences for that. The IP still exists, maybe somebody can buy it, maybe in 20 years they can bring it back, like they did after the first time it was canceled. But not exactly holding out hope for it in the short term. This is a lot of reports from The Sun, which is apparently less reputable.
What's The Sun?
It's a British news tabloid.
That's not the BBC.
That's not the BBC, yeah. And apparently they have a bad record on reporting on Doctor Who, but sometimes they've had a good record on reporting on it, from as far as I know.
So are we banking on bad or good?
I don't know. Because, again, 8% of their entire budget was just wiped off the earth.
That's
so
true.
it can't be going good for them. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, okay, so Doctor Who is done.
Yeah.
And I do know that there's bad ratings, so
Single-handedly
Disney's not
funding
going to...
Doctor Who.
Yeah, Disney's not going to be giving them any money anymore.
No.
Trump isn't giving them money anymore. So I can't imagine that they're actually going to keep it up. Plus it does look like RTD is actually leaving. Like, it looks like that's fact. And
Didn't he just come back, though?
yeah,
Well,
2023.
I guess that's been 2 years, but still.
So, I guess I hope the best for the IP itself.
Oh, yeah.
Just the best might have to come around in a more long-term mindset.
Oh, yeah. I think, Oliver, you've seen Doctor Who as well, right?
Yeah, I watched up to Peter Capaldi and I was like, yeah, this is dumb.
I watched up to Peter Capaldi as well. And, we all
He's
have
good,
memories of watching it. Probably with your family, if I had to assume. Yeah, we watch it with my...
Especially the Weeping Angel episodes with my
dude,
family.
those are so fantastic.
Yeah.
But
I had nightmares, dude, and I loved it.
Silent Library. I remember
The Silent Library,
Please do not turn
slightly
off the
terrifying.
light. Yeah, it's a great concept.
Yeah.
Just like it was canceled previously. Probably be 10, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Some guy, gal, have a good idea for it. Or not. But it'll pop back up. So I wouldn't weep too many tears over it. I think it died, personally, for me. It died after they changed from Matt Smith to Peter Capaldi. Because I just didn't like him. But,
I think that was the start of the downfall. Like, Jodie Whittaker was like...
that everyone just stopped.
At that point, it was like, all right, we're done.
Yeah, we're just done. Yeah.
But,
interesting. Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
all right, we're going to move on to our first section. It's going to be the religion section, hosted by Judah.
So, for our religion topic today, I guess more accurately, this is turning into Bible passage of the month.
Bible study of the month.
Bible study of the month. So, Bible study of the month, I'm going to read to you the first part of Gideon's story, starting in Judges chapter 6 with verse 11. So, here I go. The call of Gideon. Now the angel of the Lord came and sat under the terebinth at Ophrah, which belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, while his son Gideon was beating out wheat in the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor. And Gideon said to him, Please, my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why then has all this happened to us? And where are all his wonderful deeds that our fathers recounted to us? Saying, Did not the Lord bring us out from Egypt? But now the Lord has forsaken us, and given us into the hand of Midian. And the Lord turned to him and said, Go in this might of yours, and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Do not I send you? And he said to him, Please, Lord, how can I save Israel? Behold, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And the Lord said to him, But I will be with you, and you shall strike the Midianites as one man. And he said to him, If now I have found favor in your eyes, then show me a sign that it is you who speaks with me. Please do not depart from here until I come to you and bring you out a present and set it before you. And he said, I will stay till you return. So Gideon went into his house, prepared a young goat and unleavened cakes from ephah and flour. The meat he put in a basket, and the broth he put in a pot, and brought them to him under the terebinth, and presented them. And the angel of God said to him, Take the meat and the unleavened cakes, and put them on this rock, and pour out the broth over them. And he did so. Then the angel of the Lord reached out the tip of his staff that was in his hand, and touched the meat and the unleavened cakes, and fire sprang up from the rock, and consumed the meat and the unleavened cakes. And the angel of the Lord vanished from his sight. Then Gideon perceived he was an angel of the Lord, and Gideon said, Alas, O Lord, for now I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face. But the Lord said to him, Peace be to you. Do not fear. You shall not die. Then Gideon built an altar there to the Lord, and called it, The Lord is Peace. To this day it still stands at Ophrah, which belongs to the Abiezrites. That night the Lord said to him, Take your father's bull, and the second bull of 7 years, and pull down the altar of Baal that your father has, and cut down the Asherah that is beside it, and build an altar to the Lord your God on top of the stronghold here, with stones laid in due order. Then take the second bull, and offer it as burnt offering with the wood of the Asherah that you cut down. So Gideon took 10 men of his servants, and did as the Lord had told him. But because he was too afraid of his family and the men of the town to do it by day, he did it by night. When the men of the town rose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was broken down, and the Asherah beside it was cut, and the second bull was offered on the altar that had been built. And they said to one another, Who has done this thing? And after they searched, they inquired, and they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, has done this thing. Then men of the town said to Joash, Bring out your son, that he may die, for he has broken down the altar of Baal, and cut down Asherah beside it. But Joash said to all who stood against him, Will you contend for Baal, or will you save him? Whoever contends for him shall be put to death by morning. If he is God, let him contend for himself, because his altar has been broken down. Therefore that day Gideon was dubbed Jerubbaal, that is to say, let Baal contend against himself, because he broke down the altar. Now all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the people of the east came together, and they crossed the Jordan and encamped in the valley of Jezreel. But the Spirit of the Lord clothed Gideon, and he sounded the trumpet. The Abiezrites were called out to follow him, and he sent messengers through all Manasseh, and they were too called out to follow him. And he sent messengers to Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, and they went up to meet them. That is through verse 35. So, Judges 6, starting with 11, going through 35. What are our initial thoughts on this? I'm going to start with Kirk.
The first thing that stood out to me, and I just got finished with Judges like maybe a month or so ago. The first thing that stood out to me that I don't think I recognized then was the angel of the Lord. Mm-hmm. In a lot of places in the Bible, and I don't know if it's always, but in a lot of places in the Bible, the angel of the Lord is Jesus.
Yeah.
I remember specifically, whoever was it in probably Genesis, I don't quite remember though, that wrestled with the angel of the Lord.
You know,
Jacob, Israel.
Yes, yeah, that's who.
Yes, I know what you're talking
He
about.
was wrestling with Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? Like a son of the Virgin Mary Jesus.
Yeah.
So who knows quite what that looks like.
Second person of the Trinity, Son.
Yeah.
Pre-incarnation.
So who knows exactly like what that looks like, but I'm in that case I'm pretty sure that was meant to be Jesus, and in this case I'm wondering is it the same? Is this supposed to be Jesus who he's having this conversation with?
Yeah. No, that is a good question. I'm actually gonna Look that up. And I'll get back to you after we hear Oliver's thoughts on this first passage.
A lot to process, a lot to think about. I mean, this is obviously a passage about judgment. The book of Judges. It's about how, I guess, God deals with people of Baal. He destroys their altars and replaces it with the sacrifice of righteousness and faith.
I think that it's really important as well to look that even though Gideon, didn't quite follow exactly how he was supposed to, kind of reminiscent of Moses striking the rock in anger for the water to flow out, not listening to how God had instructed him to perform that miracle. In both of these situations, God still uses it to have his goals and his aims come about, right? Like, it's not that Gideon didn't do it exactly like I told him to, so now I've got to come up with a whole new plan, right? Even though it didn't work out exactly how God told him to work it out, it still does work out in the end.
Yeah. Well, I do have an answer for you about your initial point, and you are right. So, many scholars believe that these appearances of the angel of the Lord incarnation of Christ through Mary, the Virgin Mary, right? They believe it's Jesus. In particular, in this passage, is one of the ones that's cited as well in the topics of this. So you're right on the ball with that.
That's
awesome.
Right
on the ball with that. And I do think it's interesting. So there's this kind of idea in Judges, and Kirk, it's interesting that you went right through this. So who's the most famous judge? It's Samson by a long shot.
Yeah.
And Samson does good, but he is not a hero by any standard.
Yeah.
And the good that he does with his boldness is equaled by the sin of his lust, which ends up being his downfall. And there's kind of a parallel with each judge of they have a greatness about them, they have, some could say, virtue, and then they have a flaw. They have a character flaw that inevitably leads to their downfall, and how Israel is again taken over and needs to be delivered by the next judge, right? So do y'all know what Gideon's flaw is? Because it's very apparent in this passage.
Well, now I feel like I should.
I mean, he tests God at the end. I don't know if that's related, but I read this like a year ago, so I don't exactly know.
So,
I actually had a question.
What's your question?
Is this the situation where whoever it is that he is, maybe Gideon, says, "Where's your God? What's he doing? Is he taking a nap?" With this fire from heaven that their God was supposed to rain down, and then after
that's Elijah. That's
Elijah. Okay, because it kind of
it
was reminiscent of that when we were reading through it. I was like, wait, I thought that was somewhere else, but okay, I guess
his father, who I love that bit, like his father stands up for him. His father at the time would have been tasked with such a great responsibility by the Midianites. He had the altar of Baal on his property, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you think about that, and he had to maintain that, and that is not like a light thing. And so it being torn down would have looked like a disgrace to him, and his son doing it, any father of that time would have had just as much reason to execute that child, because that brings shame on you, and potentially brings the Midianites down on you to kill everyone.
And Eastern societies are historically and even currently shame-based societies.
Oh yes, and it's so loving and imitating of God that his son does this thing, and his son does this thing, and the thing that Gideon is, his flaw. He is a man of great pride, but he is a man of great cowardice. Mm-hmm. He is cowardly. He does it by night. He doesn't trust. But it's so interesting to me that, like, his dad, who is in this position of shame and danger, just stands up for him. He mirrors God, how God has stood up for Israel at this point in Scripture throughout time, and he just stands up and he says, "Let Baal stand up for himself." You know, if this is really such a great desecration, he can rain fire down from the sky and kill us all. Yeah. But I mean, I don't think he's gonna do that.
Because we all know.
If
there was such a mockery that happened against God, the real God, Yahweh.
Yes.
That fire be raining down from heaven. I mean, in some cases, literally, Sodom and Gomorrah, right?
Yeah.
Or in some cases, for example, when Israel is constantly turning against God and turning towards Baal and other idols and other false gods, then he gives Israel into the hands of their enemies. Or some other situation like that. They lose a battle or something, right? Whenever there's such a mockery of God, like, he doesn't just let that sit.
No.
God won't be mocked.
No, he won't.
He does something about
He
that.
corrects it.
But Baal here, he's,
Baal here will be mocked.
I'm not sure Baal ever did anything about this.
Yeah, I don't think Baal, I don't think he exists. I mean, if you want to tear a hole and enter from hell, Baal, you can do that right now. But I don't think, like, even in the time, I think it would have been cultural, the belief in Baal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it would have been less devout. So this tearing down of this tradition of oppression, the sign that they're conquered because the Midianites' God is over them, you know? It's so interesting to me because as a kid, the parts of Gideon's story that you get in your little kiddie Bible or that are taught to you in Sunday school, you get the fleece and you get him and his 300 men at the well, and then they go and invade, which is merely a third of his story. Like, it's not that much. But what this part of Gideon's story, and Gideon's story is one of my favorite stories to read in Scripture, just the entirety of it. From time to time, I'll just go read through it on the entirety myself. But this first part of it sets up not only the greatness that comes in the second act that we all know from, you know, our kiddie Bibles or Sunday school, right? But it also sets up part of the kind of narrative pattern of Judges and the Bible as a whole, if you think about it. It sets up his fall. Because throughout Scripture, and there's a grander sense of this, you have rise, you have fall. And until Christ is at the infinite part of fall, Christ is the resurrection. Like, that ends off the entirety of the last section of the Bible, the letters and such, right?
Yeah.
Is post-resurrection. So it's so interesting to me that it works as such a narrative and flows to a reader today. And the book of Judges stands out to me for doing that. It's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver?
What the heck is an Asherah?
An Asherah is a tree, I'm pretty sure, but I can also look that up.
Okay.
You know, I should probably bring my Bible whenever we do these sections because I have the R.C. Sproul super duper extra
I have it here right now.
extra note
actually,
Reformation study Bible.
Asherah was a Canaanite goddess often associated with fertility and motherhood. So she was the chief consort of Baal and would have been represented by a wooden pole next to his altar. So, so he's literally taking down not only one god, but also his main consort. So it's like kind of double insulting if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a really good passage. I really need to get more into studying these passages very deeply.
Yes.
Recently, I've been trying to just get through the entire Bible.
Which is it's a task.
Yeah,
it's an undertaking.
It's been really difficult. I'm in Psalms now, so that's only about a third of the entire Bible. Right, the Old Testament's about 2/3 of the Bible, and then there's the New Testament as the remainder.
Yeah.
And I'm about a third the way through the Bible.
And you're about to hit the prophets, dude.
Yeah.
Prophets are so hard to get through.
Yeah.
That's a struggle.
So mostly I've just been like
I found
doing
Ezekiel and Elijah and the other not Elisha, but
The
Isaiah.
Isaiah's
The other
pretty
ones,
good.
they're pretty fire.
So usually I'm just reading through in order just to do the reading.
Yeah.
And you know, I have, as I mentioned, this Reformation Study Bible with from R.C. Sproul, and as the general editor, it's got so many notes in it that every once in a while I'm like, what's that? And I go down in the notes, and I do get some of that like deeper learning from the notes, but it's still fairly surface level. And I really want to get in and do things like what we're doing right now, getting into the meat of the Bible.
Oh,
like
yeah.
looking just like a chapter, a half a chapter, a paragraph, even a verse at a time, and saying, okay, what does this mean? How does this tie into not only the book, there's an entire narrative across the entire Bible. And, you know, that's something that I want to kind of get more into, but that does actually bring me to a question I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
Which is, how does this fit more into the entire narrative of the Bible. You've touched on it a little bit here.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned, every single bit of the Bible ties in to the narrative overall, the narrative of all of creation, from Genesis, from Adam and Eve in the garden, all the way to Revelation, and even after Revelation when we will be in heaven for eternity. So how does that tie in with this story?
So, in the grand scale of scriptures, we start with the fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're on the incline up through the Judges, and the Judges illustrate to Israel, not to God, because God does not believe Israel needs a king. The Judges illustrate to Israel that they need a king. They need a ruler that are like this, but can last a long time, and have descendants that will do the same. Because the Judges, like Gideon's son is talked about, and a couple other judges' children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not in favorable lights. They are very often turned away, do evil things, have twice as much the besetting sin of their fathers. So this is at the point where it's illustrating Israel's need for the king and why they would want that. So it's setting up, after Joshua, it's filling in the gap of history, and it's setting up Samuel, and then Samuel anointing Saul initially, in Israel's want for that.
Yeah, and that didn't go very well.
It did not go very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is kind of in the rise to the king part.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the kingdom, which is getting close to the pinnacle. And then we have the separation of Judah and Israel.
Yeah.
And then you have the destruction of both and exile, which is the fall.
But the kingship,
which continues downward till Jesus and
the kingship establishes that royal lineage
does.
for Jesus. So even though it's a bad thing that the Israelites were wanting a king, because they were looking at all their neighbors and saying, they have kings, we want a king too, because we want to look at a man rather than God, right? It's a form of rebellion. God, of course, doesn't want that. They could be ruled perfectly fine with just God as their king, as a theocracy, like a true theocracy where God is literally their king. Even through, kind of tying in with kind of what we talked about earlier, it doesn't go quite how God had told them to have it go, right? God said, you're going to do this out in the open daylight. He goes and does it at night.
Yeah.
Gideon goes and does it at night. God said, you guys aren't going to have a king. I'm good enough. And they say, no, but we still want a king. And so he's like, all right, here's Saul. It doesn't go great for them, obviously, because they are in rebellion against him. But it sets up a royal lineage for Jesus to come down to earth, the angel of the Lord, as we've established, to come down to earth, to have the lineage that says, I have power, I have authority over physical things on this earth through that heritage. I also have the heritage from being the Son of God, right? So I have that more spiritual heritage. And then, of course, there's still a physical heritage in being the Son of God because God created all the physical things as well.
Mm-hmm.
But those culminate, essentially, in Jesus Christ, who then goes to the cross to be a sacrifice for us, right? But he can't be our king if there's not a kingly royal heritage for him to be born into.
Yes,
and so that's how kind of this ties in, right?
Yeah.
All the judges ties in to then Israel being like, hey, yeah, we're done with these judges.
Yeah.
We're going to have a king now. And then, as I mentioned, everything moves towards Jesus. And that's how it kind of fits in my mind, the way that I'm seeing this.
And the Old Testament always flows towards Christ. It's always leading up to that leader, that king, that prophet, that priest, that is fulfilling all of these roles that throughout scriptures, like the judges are trying to be kings. We're in that era of where we're trying to have a political kind of leader, to guide our people. Then we get into, we have prophets and we have priests who are kind of warring with each other. And so Christ is kind of the culmination of all this. He's the perfect one of this. I had one last thought before we close this up. It's interesting. So in Christ's lineage, right, there's no judge whatsoever at all. They're all from different tribes of Israel, right? None of them are from the tribe of Judah. And I think it's interesting because they're setting the foreground for, David. He is from the tribe of Judah, and David is Jesus' direct descendant of David, right? So I find it interesting that they lay away for a king that, eventually lays the way to his line, his lineage.
So his tribe never had a judge?
Judah never had a judge, no. Samson is considered to be from Dan, and is somehow related to Boaz, but Boaz is specifically from Judah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because then the one judge that they do get is Jesus.
Yeah. That's their judge. That's their king.
So it also ties in not only the royal heritage then, it's like there's an available spot essentially in this tribe for a judge as well.
Yeah.
And so not only does Jesus get the royal heritage, he's
the judge of all the tribes.
Yeah, he gets the godly heritage, and then he gets the judge heritage as well.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But this was just a nice little deep dive into a story of the Bible that I'm very passionate about, interested in. I love Judges. If I ever get back on here, we might do some more Judges stuff. We might be in the gospel. Who knows? But thank y'all for listening to this religion section. And we have a great political section coming up, courtesy of Oliver.
All right, guys, we're back, and we're going to talk about politics now. We're going to talk about DOGE, the work they're doing.
Started out as a
Government
meme.
Efficiency, yeah. They had like a little puppy, a little doggy, DOGE, as their symbol, but now it's just a huge dollar.
I think that dog died, didn't it?
That
Really?
dog did die recently.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad.
It's so sad. We're honoring it.
But
We had built an entire government agency for a meme dog.
yeah, to cut spending.
I love America.
Now, prior to this, I was rather skeptical about the idea of a swamp. I felt like it was politically charged
Talking point.
But I believe there are some merits based on the independent investigations. I was wondering what you guys thought about what DOGE was doing, and you believe are they really draining the swamp?
Oh, I'm sure we think a lot.
Oh, we do think a lot.
You want to start, Judah?
Do I want to start? Oof. Doge. So, Doge is... I like Doge. I'm kind of a fan of Doge. I also think it could be dangerous, because we could just end up with no governance whatsoever at all. Which, we just cut everything. Just like
It's a forced
efficiency.
idea.
No governance. It's efficient, at least.
All of a sudden, we've become anarchists.
Yeah, all of a sudden we're anarchists. But I do think the work that Doge is doing right now, and what work they're doing right now, people are kind of on the left, and reports I see are kind of like making it sound not like what it is.
Right.
Because they're like, what are they laying off 200,000 plus government workers that have not been coming in since COVID? Like something like that, right?
Yeah.
And that is limiting the waste of money, trying not to make our country further in debt. And it's a good thing, because our government does not need to employ as many people as it does. Our government also does not need to, provide the kind of services that has been, in my opinion, in housing, in education, and in other facilities. So I think that there's more cutting to be done. I think they've started out with some good stuff. And so far I say I'm a fan of what Doge has been doing.
Well, how about I give a quick background about it? Because I've been following this pretty heavily. Basically, DOGE which it stands for the Department of Government Efficiency.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Department of Government Efficiency.
So part of, or really the main thing that they want to do is make the government more efficient, right? It's in the name. So if there's some sort of inefficiency in the government, that means waste, right? That means that they're not doing it the best way that they can. And I think that we should all just naturally be like, yeah, if there's a better way of doing things, we should do it, right?
Yep.
So basically what they're going in and doing is just looking at a bunch of government receipts, right? And they're saying, oh, we spent $500,000 on red Solo cups for a single base.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we could have done that in a year. I think we could have done that in, with maybe $600, right?
Yeah.
Not $50,000. And I'm pulling that out of nowhere, right? Just as a very out there example. But there are a lot of things that are similar to that cost a very large amount of money because the corporations that are selling the government these goods and services are giving such a massive upcharge that the government isn't actually looking at it. Like, the employees aren't actually doing their job and saying, does this make any sense? They're just told, accept everything. Especially USAID, which was cut, which is the United States Agency for International Development. It's not aid, it's international development. They were literally told, hey, if you get a charge, just accept it. Just accept any charge that comes in. Doesn't matter. Don't look into it at all. Right? Sounds like
idea.
Fraud to me, but even if there's no fraud, it sounds like a bunch of upcharging, which I guess is fraud, but a different kind of fraud, right? So, going in there, just looking at these receipts, there are also a lot of things like DEI initiatives, giving money to condoms in Gaza, Mozambique, not Gaza, Palestine, apparently.
Palestine.
But it doesn't matter. $50 million going to condoms anywhere, I'm not for. Right?
One thing as a comic nerd, I saw people freaking out about, because apparently they were funding a comic publisher in Peru, which is not in America, right? And why they were funding this comic publisher is because they promoted such diversity, and it was a transgender comic publisher.
Yeah.
So they apparently, over time, put $1.5 million on this.
Yeah.
On this publisher.
Yeah.
That's too much. That's a single publisher.
How about this? There was a charge that was for, at some point, the wife of some British, I don't know if he's like some important political figure, or if he's just someone who's famous, or what he is. I don't remember his name either. But his wife had a organization that she ran that went to Pakistan to teach Pakistani women about weird modern art, such as a sculpture of a toilet.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
That, like, why are we sending millions of dollars for that? I think it's because it was corruption, right? She's not actually doing that because she thinks this is very important for Pakistani women.
What is that going to benefit?
She just wants the money, women. Right? It's all about...
It's all about the money, Spider-Man. It's not about the meth, Spider-Man. It's all about the money.
It's all about the money. It's just corruption on top of corruption. You can kind of see this by the Google searches in the DC area skyrocketed for lawyers.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fun.
And the median housing price in the DC area dropped by $100,000.
Whoa!
Because everybody's selling to get out of DC right now.
That's crazy. That might mean some development for that area. Yeah. Or the government's just going to buy all that up and create some kind of crazy...
Yeah. But more simply, even if there's no fraud going on, even if there's no embezzlement of funds, even if there's no waste of any kind going on in the government...
Yeah.
We are $36 trillion in debt, and we have a $1 trillion deficit, I believe. Or it might even be higher, right? By 2029, the deficit is expected to be about $48 trillion.
Yes.
I think $47.2 trillion, right? So nearly $10 trillion in the next couple of years. That is ridiculous. This is not sustainable. This is not giving a proper inheritance to our children.
No, it's
this
not.
Is not how a company can this is not how a country can operate, right? So even if there was absolutely nothing malicious or even just dumb going on in the government in any way, we should still want to be finding things to cut that are just maybe not like our top priority.
Yeah.
Right? Like, is the United States Postal Service our top priority?
No.
Is the military our top priority?
Yeah.
Yes. Or one of the top priorities at least, right? So then we can say, okay, we need the military still. We don't need the Postal Service. If it comes to it, a private corporation can take over for that.
Yeah.
And at a minimum, that's what we should be doing, right? But then there's all this waste on top of it, where I think we're over $115 billion of DOGE savings, according to usdebt.org.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we need to keep finding these things that are actually fraudulent.
And we need to cut them.
And cut them. Because a lot of this waste is probably nothing. Also, there are like 390 million Social Security recipients There are 300 and like maybe 50 million people in the United States, not citizens, people.
Yeah, that's different.
So
There's two different things.
Where are those dollars going that we were sending?
Illegal immigrants.
Well,
No, because illegal immigrants are included in that 350.
They are?
It's going overseas.
Why are we sending $40 million,
Not $40 million. 40 million people's worth of dollars.
which is a lot more than 40 million?
Yeah, a lot more. That's billion. That's I think $2.5 trillion.
That's ridiculous, dude.
Right? And then there's Medicare money as well. And then there's Medicare that's going to illegal immigrants. There's Medicare that's going to people who don't even live in the United States. There's all these different things that are. It's just more and more money going overseas that totals up to like equal our entire debt as a
There's
country.
a problem. We've had historically some like bipartisan presidents in the last 2 decades that have kind of let U.S. aid be. Would there be motivation for like George W. Bush to keep U.S. aid over Obama? Like, or is it like a useful tool, basically?
I don't
for
think
each
that
party?
they necessarily knew what was going on there.
Yeah.
Because they didn't set up somebody to go actually check, right? Everybody, for the longest time, there was kind of this optimistic view of the U.S. government, right?
That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it really exists on either side anymore.
No.
Just depending
It's
on who's
just- yeah.
president right now. So there's no reason for people to actually trust what the government's doing anymore where there was in the past. And so when somebody like Bush or Obama comes in as president, even if they have the best intentions in the world for what they're going to do, they're not going to think, oh yes, I'm going to look into U.S. aid for fraud. Because there was goodwill, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that goodwill anymore, so we're starting to look for these things. And, by the way, presidents like Bush and Obama did actually have similar initiatives, or at least talking points, about government efficiency. Now, whether they actually ever did things about that is a whole other ballgame. But we did have consensus, essentially, as a country, bipartisan support for efficiency. It's now just that, oh, Trump says that we're doing efficiency. Now we don't like it. There was a Babylon Bee article during President Trump's first term that says, President Trump comes out in support of impeachment, forcing Democrats to oppose. Right? It's literally whatever Trump supports, the Democrats want to do the opposite. And it's maybe not a rule that's always true, but it's certainly a tendency in that direction.
Yeah, I think we see a lot of contrarianism in the society, especially from you, Kirk. But
Oh, yes.
at least you're not a politician who's like, oh. Okay. I think you guys went over a lot of good points, but I do want to read a section from this article. It talks about the IRS. You guys like the IRS?
No.
No.
Okay. Donald Trump essentially made the IRS not able to hire anybody. He suspended a lot of positions.
Hiring freezes.
But their ultimate plan is to increase the efficiency of the IRS and their system, the IDRS, which stands for
Idiots.
maybe
Dummies.
probably
Stupid people.
Integrated
And
Data Retrieval
We can't say
System.
the R word.
What was it, Oliver?
There's bipartisan support for just streamlining the IRS. I'm wondering what your guys' thoughts on that, and then we'll just wrap it up.
Yeah, we need to streamline everything.
Yes.
There was a hiring freeze. There was any probationary employees, which are people who have been on for less than maybe 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
They're not full employees, so they don't have like full contractual rights, so they can be fired a lot easier.
Uh-huh.
Then there's also the buyout, essentially, hey, resign now and we'll give you 8 months pay, right? Things like that. Just
Yeah.
shrinking the size of the like literal amount of people in government. That'll save a lot of money. It'll save a lot of people who are making regulations, things like that. And a lot of that's going to apply to the IRS as well.
Yes.
And I think part of his plan is, well, I plan on cutting a lot of taxes, so I'm not going to need as many employees in the IRS to do all that work that I'm cutting.
Uh-huh.
Maybe the IRS can be scary again. You know what I mean? Like a smaller, more scary force. People will be afraid of tax evasion or embezzling.
Yeah.
You know what I'm thinking of right now?
Mass Effect.
No. What? That's
Superman?
very
Commander Shepard.
close.
But
That's
like,
closer. That's closer.
he's like an IRS.
He's not like the
agent.
IRS. What I was thinking of is there's an episode of Batman the Animated Series
Of course.
where Joker inherits $1 billion, but it's fraudulent.
Small loan of $1 billion.
But it's fraudulent, and he's afraid of the IRS
Yes.
coming to get him, and it's very funny. So let's make the IRS great again. You know, why not?
We need to
I hate taxes, but still.
Yeah, we need to make government agencies as a whole and the government as a whole scary again. Not because I like the government or because of, we need government to be doing X, Y, and Z thing. No, it's because the government is doing so few things that you have a proper fear of doing bad things because of what the good government will do to you.
Yes.
Right. Yes, absolutely. So make the IRS scary again.
Yeah.
Oh, feature creeps. I have a quote from this Kevin O'Leary guy from Shark Tank.
Oh, yes.
And he sums it up pretty nicely and succinctly. Cut, 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 cut. More cutting. Believe me, it's going to work out just great. Everybody should be happy about this.
Mm-hmm. Or as Javier Melier says...
What does he say?
Do you guys know?
I have no idea.
Afuera.
What's that mean?
I don't remember, but I think it means out. Yeah.
Get
You're
out.
out. You're out too.
Afuera. Fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Good topic.
That will be our third section.
Second
Section on politics. We will come back with the third section on culture.
All right. So I have our final section. It's culture. As we've mentioned in both the last episode of Off the Record and our side quest episode that we released 2 weekends ago, which you guys should definitely go watch. I mean, we had a lot of fun recording it, so hopefully you guys have a lot of fun listening to it. But as mentioned in those, we went to watch the new Captain America 4 movie just a couple of days ago. And, I mean, when we walked out of it, we all seem to enjoy it a lot. I don't know if maybe we still enjoy it after giving it some more thought. I will be asking you that later if you want to start coming up with your reasons that you hate the movie.
Yes.
But I wanted to give just a couple of notes on the background of the movie. And there will be tons of spoilers here.
Do you want to give a non-spoiler recommendation of it if people don't want to listen or hear spoilers?
Okay, I'll give a quick recommendation. I also do post it on IMDb. I have posted twice on IMDb.
Yeah.
But you could go there for one. But I'll also give a brief one right here, and then you can skip to the end for our media recommendations. But spoiler-free review is good movie. I thought it was really enjoyable. I had a lot of fun watching it. The plot does flow fairly well, even for being a movie that was reshot a number of times. I thought that it was fairly character driven, that it wasn't just a lot of random and pointless things being included to push the story along, but rather it was character did this, that caused character number 2 to respond with this, etc., etc. And there were a lot of good action sequences just to sit back and watch and just enjoy a cinematic experience.
Yeah, it's worth a ticket depending on the price. If you have an $11 or under dollar ticket wherever you are, it's worth picking up. If you have a kid, it's probably enjoyable. It feels like going back to some of the more, I guess, classic. It's weird to say that now. Classic Marvel superhero movies.
Yeah. So for that, I thought it was really good. If you're looking for a cinematic masterpiece, why are you looking at Captain America 4? So, hopefully that's not what you're looking for in this. I just thought it was enjoyable. I thought it was worthwhile to go with a couple of friends and just enjoy the time and the snacks that we snuck into the theater.
Yeah, it was great.
And now I'm going to start spoiling.
Yay.
So, skip, a lot.
Skip
to the last 10 minutes of this video podcast.
Whatever you're listening to it or watching it on.
Yes. All right, so...
Spoiler
version incoming. The background of the movie is essentially that it's a sequel to Falcon and the Winter Soldier. In that show, it was 4 years ago.
That's weird to say.
He is he being
Anthony Mackie,
Sam Wilson. Yes. Totally forgot. He's kind of gripping with being passed the torch to by Cap OG, who at the end of Endgame gave him the shield. Spoilers to a lot of different things, by the way.
Yes. We
Gave
can say
him-
spoilers.
Gave him to the shield. Look, this was like 6 years ago. Okay,
Yeah.
get with the times.
I've not watched Winter Soldier or.
Well,
Oliver, you're
Yeah.
just.
I mean, you watched the movie though, so
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. He's Cap OG gives Cap new the shield in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He's trying to kind of grapple with this new thing. He doesn't really want to at first, from my memory. He's like, that's a lot to live up to. I don't want to do it. And they kind of touch it on that at the very end of this movie too. And I thought a pretty good way. And a lot of different other things go on. That was actually written quite poorly, and so it had my standards set really low walking into this movie.
Oh yeah.
And by pretty poorly, I mean it was.
There was John Walker, excellent part of that, because in my opinion, he's lovable and he's hateable, but you're not rooting entirely against him. He's like a good anti-hero in that story, and I feel like Sam and Bucky, and the stuff with Sam's family is great.
Yeah.
The villains and all the stuff with the villains and that entire TV show.
Yeah.
absolute
That's where it
garbage.
went wrong.
It was
right.
Yeah.
The terrorists who were terrorists the entire time are
But they
apparently
made
just
us
like
have to do better.
are apparently just like poor unfortunate souls who are only doing what they have to do by being terrorists, who are literally being terrorists on purpose because they wanted to be like they wanted to cause terror.
Yes.
That doesn't flow. And then at the very end,
At least make them have a goal like money. I mean.
there was a goal.
They wanted to open the borders.
Yeah, they
And I'm not joking.
Yeah.
That is literally what they were doing.
because of the blip from which they should have called it the snap, but because of the blip in Endgame and
Blip.
Infinity
Just
War,
messing with you.
the bunch of people moved all across the globe because there were literally half the amount of people, but then all of a sudden everybody comes back and all of a sudden borders kind of matter again and things like that. But then these people are saying, actually, we kind of built a system for ourselves during
Based
the
off of
blip.
the open borders after
Yeah.
Blip.
And so they wanted to bring that back, and they thought the best way to do that would be terrorism. Usually not the greatest way to get your goals across. And so at the very end, though, the solution is not, oh, do this thing. Any form of specifics. No, it's you just need to do better.
Yep.
Because that's helpful.
Was,
So that show really sucked. Back to this movie though, that was a lot better. Some more background is that there was a lot of reshooting. There were a lot of behind the scenes issues with this movie. Marvel had to go in a lot of different directions and had to set up new things. Not least because of their whole Kang situation. Devolved. Jonathan Majors is out of Marvel because of harassment claims, sexual assault claims,
abuse
claims, and so they had to reorient a lot of their plans, and I'm sure that affected this in a lot of ways, as well as many other things. I'm sure some of the reshoots as well were because of President Trump winning the election. They recognized the culture was going in a different way than they were going, and I'm sure they were like, okay, well now we have to kind of bring this to a different set of people than we were originally thinking, who have different ideas than how this was originally written. So I'm sure there was at least some of that in the reshoots as well. But the original release date was supposed to be May 3rd, 2024.
Yes.
So
it's been a minute.
Yeah, like 7-8 months.
Yeah.
Actually, probably closer to 10. I'm not going to do the math on that, but a long pushback essentially. But the most important piece of background you need for this is that he is the new Captain America. Endgame set that up, right? So as far as what happened in the movie, and this is going to be a lot more spoiler heavy for this movie, the main kind of driving force for the plot is the Celestial Island and Adamantium, a combination of the two.
Yes. From Eternals and I guess Eternals.
Eternals set up Celestial Island, right? There was these kind of elders of the universe planted a seed in the earth. That seed fed off the life force of everybody who lived on Earth for millions of years until it grew enough to hatch from the egg that is the Earth. And in Eternals, they essentially got Tiamat, is the Celestial, got Tiamat to sacrifice himself, which wasn't actually, I don't think, very clear in the movie. I think they may have like told us instead of shown us. But this new island essentially is just the corpse of this giant Celestial in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and it's transfigurated into this new element that's stronger than vibranium, adamantium, which, of course, most people know as the skeletal structure of Wolverine, which, pretty cool, I would say. So the plot kind of revolves around adamantium and Celestial Island. So the main villain, bad guy, is the leader, Samuel Stearns.
Who's it by?
I don't know.
I just had this up.
He's pulling strings behind the scenes to get revenge on newly elected President Thaddeus Ross.
Tim Blake Nelson.
All right. So he's pulling a bunch of strings to try to humiliate Ross. He wants him on the world stage enough that he's helping him get the presidency, so that his downfall can be just great, right? A massive downfall from president of the United States to, in the end of the film, prison, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing I wanted to mention about the design on Samuel Stearns is so good.
It was so good. It was
like, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting like a cartoony, big green head. But they went like,
as a Hulk fan, I would have loved that, but also I understand
they went on the more gory route of it.
Yeah, it looked
really good, and not that it was like super disgusting or gory. It's just more in that direction than cartoony. So like a little kid probably wouldn't be more scared of that than he would be of just generally being scared of a bad guy.
Yeah, well, right. Maybe. I mean, he does look freaky.
It can depend maybe on the child, but I didn't think it was like that far in the gore. But it was certainly a really good design. They nailed that one. True props to the prop department.
Yeah.
And the makeup department.
Yeah.
And I like his glowing green eyes.
His growing green eyes. His head grew.
His too bad head as well. It was quite disturbing.
Goodness.
So yeah, that's something that I really liked about that. But at the very end of the movie, the President Ross turns into the Red Hulk.
Yes.
They kind of like, they featured this heavily
in the trailers.
The trailers and the marketing.
It's a good climax, I will say.
Yes, and they were setting it up a lot throughout the movie. He had a lot of moments of anger. I didn't realize in the theater, but when he's on the ship in the Indian Ocean and he's like holding,
he's turning red.
He's
not
his
like the Pixar
like,
movie, but yeah.
Yeah, his eyes are turning red.
And he's
I didn't
growing.
even notice that, right? Like he's about to turn into Red Hulk. I was just so caught up in the story that I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Which could be seen as a good thing. Could be a pro.
Yeah.
But the whole setup in the movie was actually really good.
It was great.
I have a couple of takeaways, likes and dislikes. I've mentioned it was fun and action packed movie. Disney and Marvel definitely seem to be making course corrections on wokeness. I mentioned maybe some of the reshoots were about that.
Maybe. Well,
the company.
I have an opinion on that, but
okay.
We'll save that.
Going woke, going broke, right?
Yeah.
I think eventually they have to make a decision to either fully just dissolve as a company because they've gone completely broke, or stop going woke, right? And I think they might be making at least some slight course corrections into that vein. Then I had one issue with the very final battle when Cap and Red Hulk are fighting.
Yeah.
Which I actually call him Cap.
Cap.
Which I think
is not
really,
what anyone was expecting.
I wasn't expecting that.
You weren't expecting to go in there and be like,
yeah.
Anthony Mackie is going to be Captain America, but he is.
Yeah.
And that's something I'll give him a lot of credit for, because that is a role to step into, and he did a great job.
Yeah, I was fully expecting
better than Sam Wilson transitioning Captain America in the comics. It's good.
Yeah, I was fully expecting to be like, either reluctantly calling him Cap or just not at all.
Yeah.
But I'm actually calling him Cap. Like, he's Captain America now in my mind. Like, they did a really good job with that, and the performance was really good by Mackie. But my gripe is the Wakandan vibranium armor that that he has.
Yeah.
The whole background to that is, and it's set up in Black Panther 1, so I guess more spoilers.
Yeah.
That one was a while ago, though. Essentially, if you take a punch or a hit of any kind, the suit absorbs the kinetic energy from that, and when it builds up enough, you can expel it as just a blast, right? And throughout that entire fight, Red Hulk is punching. There is tons of kinetic energy being built up in that armor. And at any moment there, he could have expelled it to get out of a situation. And so when the Hulk grabs his pack, his flight pack, starts ripping the wing off, I'm thinking, okay, so he's going to use the armor to push the Hulk back.
The Hulk just does it.
No. He's just like, all right, I guess I'm here now. Whatever.
Yeah.
And he loses one of his wings. His suit is badly damaged. He's basically losing the fight at this point. But he still has this kinetic charge that can go off at any moment that he wants it to. And he does eventually use it. So they actually do recognize that it's a thing, right?
But they want to build up that tension. And there's points where you're like, you know it about it, if you're us, at least. And you're like, he should have done this by now.
Yeah. So I think they were just trying to... it was lazy writing because they wanted it to be like a one-punch situation at the very end where the tip of the wing hits him in the liver. Not sure how he didn't die from that, because he did bleed.
He did bleed.
I'm not... I just didn't like it. That was... One of the gripes that I had was just that was, I think, lazily written. But probably the biggest praise I have for this film is that they did a really good job keeping hype up for Red Hulk during the movie. Like,
they did.
In watching the movie.
Yeah.
In the universe of the movie, essentially. Yeah. Because he was, like, predominantly featured in all the marketing campaigns.
Yes.
All the trailers was like, Red Hulk, Red Hulk, Red Hulk. Thaddeus Ross as Red Hulk, right? The president turning into Red Hulk. Like, if you watch the movie, if you watch the movie, 90% chance you knew Thaddeus Ross was going to be Red Hulk.
Yeah.
So they needed to do something to keep the people who knew, which because of their marketing was the majority of the audience. You have to keep them at the edge of their seats throughout the movie, right? They can't be getting bored because they're like, yeah, and I saw that in the ads, and I saw that in the ads, and
yeah, I felt like it was sort of ruined.
Well, I thought they actually did it well because they pushed it off to the very end of the movie, right? It wasn't like halfway through the movie, right? It was at the very end. So when he's angry in his situation room in the bunker, in the middle of the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Could have been then that he turns into Hulk. It could have been when he was on that aircraft carrier, or I think he was in a battleship actually, next to the aircraft carrier. Could have been then. I mean, they were really getting you to think it was going to happen then.
Yeah.
And just at many other points throughout the movie, it's like, is this going to be when? Well, no. It was at the very end of the movie. It was like 10 minutes of stuff going on in that vein.
Yeah.
At the very end of the movie. And once you got to it, it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
And they built it up
didn't
really
overstay
well.
its welcome either.
Yeah. And so because because they predominantly featured him in the marketing, I felt like they really had to push him off to the very end.
Oh, yeah.
To keep something that, like, the reason you came to the theaters was this. Can't give me that in the first 10 minutes of the movie when the movie's 2 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they did really good with that. But I guess my question then is going to...
what are your thoughts on Jewish Black Widow?
No.
Okay, we're going to get that.
My question for you guys is very simple. What'd you like?
So, okay, I'm going to start with what I like. Likes and dislikes? Can I do dislikes as well?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the action was really good. Action was fantastic. It's the best and most engaging action I've seen in a Marvel movie. I've heard people complaining about it, and I say to those people, watch previous Marvel movies and compare them because it's day and night. Like, it's not groundbreaking Matrix stuff, right? But it is engaging and it was fun. Like, it was fun action, and it was well thought out. Like, his fight with Red Hulk was great. At the beginning, when he goes into the compound in Mexico, and he's fighting whatever Sidewinder, right? That was good.
The destruction of the White House.
The destruction of the White House? Well, that was
I didn't expect them to go there.
Yeah.
And even the Washington Monument got a little bit of damage.
Yeah. And it's like, and
Bold
there was, yeah, and then over Tiamat, I guess, Celestial Island is what we're calling it now. Over the flight over Celestial Island where they're, in the air with the missiles, that's entirely CGI, and it didn't look bad enough to take me out of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I remember watching The Flash. The Flash was so awful. I remember watching the Marvels. Marvels bad CGI, right? But this, it kept me engaged the entire time, and that's something I can give to it. I think, going back to the
choreographed well, even though
choreographed well, yes.
CGI was kind of off.
Yeah. One thing I will say I didn't like is vibranium armor, because there's a big plot point that I really do like, is that he did not take the super soldier serum. And that is a thing that Sam Wilson as Captain America is kind of going through and reckoning with throughout the entire movie, right? But you kind of nullify that by having him have the entirely vibranium armor. Because there's points in the movie, and they do this where you kind of humanize him a little bit by taking it away. Because they take away his shield, and he just fights that big guy at the beginning, and he kind of gets injured there. Or when he's attacked outside of any armor or whatsoever, when Sidewinder gets him in his truck, like, that's a cool fight scene.
That was pretty cool.
Because he has to show off his own personal skills.
And then when he fights full strength the Red Hulk, who is also at full strength, that is also fun. So they leveled the playing field with that. So they didn't it didn't overstay its welcome. But there's kind of thought in the back of my head, he's not really in that much danger, and is there really that much difference with that?
And with armor, why, if you're going to give him the armor, why not have him take the serum?
Yeah, right. It's kind of that idea. I will say, going back to likes, I thoroughly enjoyed Bucky. Well, we're already in spoilers. I thoroughly enjoyed Bucky showing up.
So unexpected.
That was so unexpected.
I loved it.
It was very good. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And then last thing I did not really like, I feel like they rushed some of the stuff with Isaiah Bradley at the beginning. The beginning kind of felt rushed. Until
it was probably a product of reshoots.
Yeah, and my theory with this, because I mentioned earlier, I think what we saw in theaters was entirely reshot. I think because they registered the budget of the film legally, and they changed the name, it's $180 million for the reshoots, and technically that's the cost of the film, because that's what the film's name is now. I think they changed the name and were able to write off probably on taxes because they didn't technically release that footage or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's that what we saw entirely reshot, but it was good for that reshoots.
My one problem with that theory is there were a lot of scenes that were featured in the trailers that were not actually even in the movie.
Yes.
So that shows that they were even changing things up to the very last second.
Yes.
And so they probably didn't have in mind just tax write off everything else. That they were
but
still
that would
trying
smart,
to
because the reported budget of the other one is $250.
Yeah. It definitely would have been smart if they just were like, all right, we're redoing it. But.
And looking at box office for this is not this is somehow the second highest performing Captain America movie on opening weekend.
Wait, really?
Yeah, because Winter Soldier only made 88. This has made 80. This made 89.
Is that's including Civil War?
Yeah, opening. Yeah, no, this is the second. Civil War is the highest, right?
Okay.
Civil War is insane.
So Civil War makes sense.
This Winter Soldier's barely below this, and then the first Captain America movie only made $65 million opening weekend.
Wow. I mean, good on them.
Yeah,
yes.
That's surprising. Though, to be fair, it's got a hill to climb to get its budget. Oliver,
I liked it.
Why?
I honestly, I'm just sort of thinking about the Jewish Black Widow.
Do you have the hots for her or something?
I don't know. I just found it curious because she's like a 5'6" lady, but she can fight.
Well, she was supposed to be a full-on, outright powered hero, essentially. Yeah. But they realized, oh, shoot. Half of our audience is going to riot over that.
Yeah.
In fact, some people are even still mad that there was a Jewish person in the movie, right? Which is ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
like I wouldn't be annoyed if there was a Palestinian person in the movie.
Do you think there's like Israeli superheroes? Because
Oh no, she is one of those.
She is one. She's supposed to be one.
Oh,
But they
Ragman is
rewrote
another.
her background to be a Black
DC.
Widow, and then they just kind of ignored her. In fact,
Yeah.
I think in the ship scene where they're on the battleship,
Mhm.
I think she was wearing a
Costume.
suit, a costume.
When she's wearing a costume for when she goes to meet Sam and
Yeah.
I guess what's his name, Joaquin, whatever the other guy is that he's
Samuel
with Falcon,
Yeah.
Mexican Falcon. He's Mexican Falcon now.
Yeah.
We don't have Black Captain America. We just have Captain America, but we now have Mexican Falcon.
Sure.
So what? She's wearing a costume then. She's wearing a costume on the submarine.
Yeah.
She's not wearing a costume at the
Yeah.
when he's giving the speech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that during those scenes, she was supposed to have like, superhero fight scene essentially.
Mm-hmm. Which
but-
would explain why she dispatches people so easily.
Yeah, and
'Cause
that's
there's kind of some unbelievable aspect to
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But that's why she had such a costume on that never got explained. Is because they wrote that part out because it was going to be too controversial. Which probably a smart decision, though not a decision I like.
Yeah.
But it is the decision that's going to help them get more money out of the movie, and they are a business. So
True.
I do theoretically understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like this could be a good, I guess, ad hoc plot point, which is that she's a double agent for Israel.
You just like that?
I don't know. I think it'd be cool, like a double agent superhero.
I mean, you realize that Israel's an ally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you can. I mean,
Especially when
intelligence
Ross is
still
supposed to be a
proprietary.
Trump-like figure, right?
But intelligence is still proprietary,
And he
she's an
was not the
intelligent
bad
officer.
guy. That I was worried that he was going to be the bad guy. Trump. I was going to say Trump. Ross is not the bad guy in the movie.
Yeah.
And that's
He's a victim.
He's a victim.
And you're actually kind of
He's not-
supposed to feel bad when he's in prison.
And a
Yeah, you are.
perpetrator.
Yeah.
He has,
He's both.
and it's good that he is serving time willingly. As
Yeah.
like
It's a good sign of humility for his character, because his character actually, in like previous movies and stuff before he was recast because the prior actor unfortunately passed away,
yeah.
His character was kind of a jerk.
Yeah. Kind of.
Like he's kind of responsible for the breakup of the Avengers in Civil War.
Just kind of.
Like he kind of sucks. And so I like the humility at the end to say, yeah, I was duped.
Yeah.
I will willingly submit and go to prison for this.
Yeah.
I also like the Isaiah Bradley subplot.
Yeah.
That he was.
That was really sad.
Yeah.
Like I was.
Vietnam War super soldier.
It was
Vietnam
really
War
sad.
Captain America.
Yeah.
They wrote that stuff pretty well. I
They
think
did.
they overused it in Falcon and the Winter Soldier to be too like
Yeah.
political and
Well-
race and things like that. But then they used it really well in this one,
They
where
did.
it's like, yes, this is just an established fact of the history of this place, and we're going to use that rather than coming from the real world
Yeah.
and trying to
We're
like make
gonna-
a political message out of it.
Yeah,
we're just gonna.
We're not going to say that evil is perpetuated today. It's
Yeah.
just it is a thing that happened, and we have to acknowledge it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I thought it was really good.
I really like that part. But yeah, that's this movie. We all thought it was really good. Everybody who skipped, I guess, welcome back. Not that we told you when to come back to.
Not yet, at least. We could edit that in.
Yeah, I might put some text on screen.
Or timestamps.
So it's about a minute, an hour and a half or so. I'm gonna
About a
edit this down
minute
probably a little
distance.
bit. So,
Yeah.
cut out some ums and uhs, maybe some blank spaces. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Good culture
Anyway,
section.
we all enjoyed this movie.
We did. What
we're gonna-
ratings? Kurt, give me a rating.
A rating? I'll
Out of
say.
10.
Well, I gave it 4 stars on IMDb.
So would that be 8?
So
would that
8.
translate?
Yeah.
IMDb is
I'm
a
going
scale of 10.
7.5.
Audience score is currently at about 80%. Right
It's
now.
82%.
Yeah.
Critic score is 49%.
Yeah, which usually when the critics hate something and the audience likes it, it's good.
That's a
when
good
the
sign.
audience hates
Something
something and the
and the
critics like it, it's bad.
Like Emilia Perez.
Star
So
Wars episode whatever 8 I think.
All right, give us out of 10.
7 out of 10.
7 out of
7 out of 10. Yeah.
All right.
So
cool.
our average is a 7.25 out of 10. That is the final podcast rating for Captain America: Brave
Yeah,
New World.
and I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic.
All
Good
right,
job on
so
culture.
we have one
Rec-
last thing.
Recommendations.
Recommendations. Yes. So let's go in order of how we're sitting. Oliver, any form of media whatsoever that you've been consuming recently?
Give me a book. Give me a movie. Give me a comic or a TV show.
A really inspiring song.
A really inspiring song. That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I haven't. I've been like caught up in my Buddhism and Western literature course, so I'm not gonna mention that because I think the readings are kind of BS.
I'm not going to mention that, he says.
But I'm not going to mention the book specifically. But I'm going to mention what's really been comforting me during these arduous reading sessions, which is the Bible and also U2, band U2, which I recommended to Kirk and he refuses to listen to.
I'm busy.
Yes, but U2 is a good band and you can use that.
I may at some point.
I've also read All Star Superman, but that's what Judah showed me. And
yeah,
honestly,
we
All
both
Star
just
Superman
finished reading that.
is super
actually.
good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's got the flamboyancy of a action superhero with like sci-fi elements. So that's solid. U2.
Who's
Superman.
All-Star Superman by? I know this. Do you know
Jeff
this?
Loeb and
No.
Tim Sale.
No.
Shoot. I know Tim Sale's drawn it, but...
Well, we have to
Tim
wrap this
Sale,
up.
that's
So, Judah, what's your recommendation?
So my recommendations, I watched the 2019 movie The King with Timothée Chalamet and Ben Mendelsohn and Joel Edgerton and Robert Pattinson. It's Henry V, but done in a modern, well, not in like a modern time. It's done with modern stuff, and it is really well acted. It's a good movie to watch, and I have that, and I have Courage by Joe Rigney, yet another book by Joe Rigney that I'm working my way through. It is very convicting. It is on the virtue of courage and the vice of cowardness, and it's good, it's great, it's not fun, but it's a good read and it's edifying. And lastly, I read the first volume of, because I'm going to recommend comics every time I'm up here. I have a soapbox, so I'm going to use it. I read the first volume of Ultimate Spider-Man from 2024, which is the first 6 issues. It's called Married with Children. It's from Jonathan Hickman with art by Marco Cicchetto, and it was super good. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's the best Spider-Man I think I've read in a long time. So, Dirk.
Cool. I've got 3. First one, kind of broad, but then more specific. C.S. Lewis in general. He's great, y'all. If you're not reading C.S. Lewis, get a life. Like, seriously. He's amazing. But specifically, I'm reading the second book of the space trilogy, Paralandra. I'm on chapter 15 out of 17, so nearing the end. And it's just a really good story. Lots of good theological things that you can take out of it. More so, I would say, in this one, because in the second book, Paralandra, because it's a lot more overt
That's
Out of the
factual.
Silent Planet. That's the first recommendation. Second recommendation is going to be our side quests. Great pieces of media. I mean, whoever made those.
Oh yeah,
they're
just
really
excellent.
great.
Like 20 out of 50. I mean, 50 out of 20.
They're, I think that it's going to be a fun one. More broad, I guess, audience base is what we're going for.
Yeah.
Because it's just like fun things.
Yeah.
This one, this main podcast, it's kind of more geared towards Christian audiences with the first section, very intentionally, the first main section being the Bible.
Oh, yes.
Comes across as more, Christian audience searching. But then our side quest is going to just be more fun stuff that we want to fill the time where we have the main podcast monthly, right? That leaves, 4 weeks where you're not getting anything from us.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to fill that time a little bit. It's better for YouTube algorithm to post more regularly as well. And so the shorter one will help us with the workload essentially of this.
Yeah. And last recommendation?
Last recommendation is our Patreon. It's $1 a month if you guys want to buy me the how much I paid essentially for
a latte.
No. This isn't a buy me a coffee thing. This is I had to pay for a software to do these things.
Oh, yes,
and I would like that
true.
money back. Thank you very much. So, if
Thank
you want to
you,
help
please.
with that, uncut episodes.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Everything that happened in this that
Did not
was
make-
recorded
Yes.
that I am going to cut out. I might not even cut out anything.
Maybe. Yeah.
But,
We'll see.
we'll see when I'm actually...
You'll get the podcast early?
Yes, you'll get it a couple days early. You'll get it uncut if there are any things that are cut out that maybe isn't going to be great for completely public audiences.
Yeah.
Maybe Oliver's a little bit too racist or something like that. We'll cut some of those things out from time to time. But Discord as well is on there if you want access to talk to us a little bit more directly than YouTube comments.
Oh yeah. That's fair.
Because we don't exactly look at YouTube comments all day, every day, because we have lives.
That's a surprise.
I know. we're three guys recording a podcast together. You'd be surprised that we have lives.
That's, yeah.
So, anyway, join that if you guys want to.
Yeah. So, we here at Off the Record bid all of you a good day. We pray that God bless you and keep you. And, good
Make
morning.
His face shine upon you.
Make his face shine upon you. And we're going to wish you a good morning, a good evening, and good night.